Good afternoon. We're live. Devin Menace,
Yeah.
right? Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Welcome today. So, Devin, this is obviously, I'm Shawn Williams, and welcome to Lending with Purpose. This live stream is about empowering you with valuable information, resources, and engaging conversations with clients and friends that help you navigate the world of lending, but also to enhance your life. So, welcome today. And just real quick, I don't have a story this week, even though I have storyteller written across my chest.
Yeah.
Um, but we before we started the live stream, you were telling me about an interview that you just recently had. And
hmm
did you know that I work for NPR?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
I used to go to visit uh, ATC a lot. Um,
Okay.
and so I spent wow during college. That job helped me kind of get through school. That was my employment, and
All
um,
right.
I owe a great deal, I feel, to NPR because it really gave me some professional skills. That was the first like real like sort of professional job that I had,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
did that through college, and worked after I finished for a bit, but really prepared me to get to a point where I could be a pretty decent communicator, but also taught me to really understand how to deal with people. I was in human resources, and so um, yeah, yeah, that
Okay.
was it.
All right. All
I'm
right.
sure you'll tell me about more about all things considered and the actual show that you and your folks did, but
Yeah.
that was more a question to you. Did you know? But also, folks out there in the world who are wondering who Shawn is, got a pretty diverse background in regards to employment. But with that said, I would because I'm really excited to get into this conversation with you today.
Yeah.
And so tell us who you are, what you do, and we'll talk.
All right. My name is Devin Menace. I'm from Bowie, Maryland, but my family is all from down south Florida, the St. Petersburg, Tampa, Florida area. So every summer we go down south. So I am certainly a Southern man because I've always spent my summers down south. I went to DeMatha Catholic High School, and I was fortunate enough to get into Morgan State University and graduated there. Which was awesome, and I also became a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated from the Gamma chapter, the second oldest chapter in Phi Beta Sigma. So I'm really proud of that. And yeah, so, and then fast forward about what, maybe like 10, 15 years later through different career fields. And oh my gosh, I could tell you some things about my previous careers too. Um, 15 years later, I'm here at True Footage, an appraisal apprentice, and just super excited about being in this industry. And I feel like it's a very awesome time because even though the real estate industry is having its mood changes right now, I feel that getting into the industry at this time is going to be really great because how everything happens, everything has a scale of balances with it. So
Got you. So you want to
yeah.
give somebody else a shout out before you get in trouble?
Yes, yes. I have to give the person a shout out that was the main catalyst for me getting into this career. My wife, Amy Menace, the mortgage girl boss on Instagram. You can follow her at the underscore mortgage girl boss. She is an amazing, amazing senior loan officer with Benchmark Mortgage. So have to certainly shout her out. And I also have to shout out Sharif Small too for being the person to call my cell phone, and at the same time he was getting his property appraised by my by my supervisor, Jack Sunso. So I have to thank Sharif for that too. Sharif also interrogated me, Shawn, on a real quick side note. Sharif was the first person to allow me to date my wife. So him and his wife put me through the gauntlet of interrogation, and it was the best thing ever. So shout out to Sharif. He just actually made a real big commercial purchase with FedEx. So really proud of him, and thank you for letting me get to know my wife, and thank you, my wife. So thank you, Shawn. Appreciate that.
All good, all good. You're welcome. You can thank me later.
Yes,
You
I
can,
will.
so you're an appraisal or an appraiser apprentice, is that right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so like how did you so like briefly describe your background
Uh-huh.
and but tell me like why the appraisal industry. I know you mentioned how you got introduced to it and stuff like that, but like,
Yeah.
how'd you become interested?
You know, most people, and I dare to say, most Black people do not have talks of the real estate appraisal field in their families because a lot of us don't even know that that's an industry that even exists. Um, Usually, only if you become a homeowner, that's when you actually get introduced to who an appraiser is. So I didn't know about it, and my background is primarily in customer service and sales, and I also too have a other backgrounds in like the physical fields as well too. So I have a very well rounded background in all different types of skill sets. But how it became interested to me, as I said before at the beginning, my wife is the one that introduced it to me. But here's what made it click, and here's what made it seem like, wow, this is something that I really feel like I want to do. She asked me, well, I know you're in career transitions and you have several jobs and you're trying to figure out what you feel what job you will be the best at performing. But she
Mhm.
said, I want you to take a second and think about, Devin, what do you want your job or your career to do for your life? And when she said that, Shawn, it just changed everything. It made me think about, well, what do I want out of my life? And so I started listing some things. Some of the things that I listed was that I want to be able to, one, get into a little less wear and tear industry because I had worked blue collar jobs before, and I also been in the physical fitness industry too. So I wanted to be able to have something that have a little less wear and tear, but also at the same time too, I wanted to be able to have a career that I can be able to travel and to be able to do my work if I need be, because Amy loves to go to beaches. So I need to be able to have something that I can pick up and go and I can work on at the same time. So that flexibility. Also, for the fact too, I want to be able to have something that I can get paid really well in. You know, the better I do in my career, the more certifications that you get, the more the more money you can make. And with the appraisal field, it is a field that a lot of people don't realize that you can make very good money while doing. But yes, it's going to take a little bit of work. So that's how I got interested in it.
Got it. And then so like you have to go through the training to become a certified appraiser. Is that right? Well, to become an
Yeah,
appraiser, does that certify you or is there a next level to it? So like take us through, what
yeah,
it's going to look like in the future. You go through this program and such. Like
yeah.
how does someone if we were going to reverse engineer it, what would it look like?
Absolutely, absolutely. So here's what it looks like first. You have to be able to go through appraisal school. So you
Hmm.
have to be able to find a certified appraisal school. From there, you're going to need to learn 75 hours of courses, and you're going to need to be able to pass several tests at the end of those courses in order to be able to become a graduate of appraiser school. Once you graduate the appraiser school, remember that's 75 hours and also test included too. Once you do that, then you can apply to your state um, for your registered trainee license. And that's what I have from the state of Maryland. I have a registered number that proves whenever I'm showing up on reports that, hey, this is a registered trainee and he is competent enough to be at this level. So that's how you start it. From that point, once you get your trainee certification number, you then have to take an additional 75 hours of courses to be able to take you to be able to be qualified to take your state exam. So the Maryland state exam, which will give me the opportunity to be able to obtain my licensed real estate appraiser certification. That now that's the part of the journey that I'm on. So I'm completing those extra set of classes in order to then be able to be qualified to take the Maryland state exam. So it's a quite a bit of a journey to be able to get into the appraisal field. Some people they think it's just as much as terms of going to classes and taking the tests like you can do to become a realtor, but you have to do a little bit more schooling, and you also have to do continuing education to be able to continue to be able to be certified to do your work in the appraisal field.
Understood. And so, how many hours as a trainee do you have to put in before you can sort of be on your own?
So that depends upon the state because each state has different hours.
Hmm.
So for the state of Maryland, in order for me to be able to take my license or realtor exam, I need to be able to record 1,000 working hours under a certified residential appraiser. So again, I need 1,000 working hours, and it used to be more, but as of recently, they changed it, which people are very happy for because it's a hard journey, and trainees weren't always paid. Like in fact, there's still a lot of opportunities that you still have to be able to become a trainee, and there's not a paid apprenticeship. But now that's becoming a lot more common because obviously the way of the world and cost of living is something else. So if you are looking to be able to become a critical step to the most important asset that 95% of the people in this world will have, which is a home, you're going to have to work for it a little bit, but it's totally, totally well worth it.
Got it, got it. And so, like, there's 2,080 hours in a year, like in a work year. And so,
Mm,
when I hear 1,000, that's like 6 months of your life. And then, so if you're not getting paid for it, that could be a challenge. And so, yeah, I can
yeah,
understand why folks would want to hurry up and get me through this thing so that I can
yeah,
get going. So, no, that's
yeah.
really awesome. So, like, let's talk about. So, I had one. I'm gonna do a follow up question on this, like in regards to like how, like, discuss your process, like your training process that you have and are going through, and then like how do you continuously improve your skills and knowledge as an appraiser?
Well, I being an apprentice, eh, depending on what appraiser you that decides to be able to mentor you, they may have a different particular process on how they want to do stuff because appraisers, they're very independent by nature, so they have their own processes. Do they, yes, have to be able to abide by certain procedures and standards? Yes, obviously, just like any other profession. But as in particular, my journey with Jack Sunso, he has. I feel that I was so lucky to be able to be placed with that type of supervisor. First and foremost, one, my process has been being introduced to the appraisal process in like segments. So when we talk about the appraisal report, which is what obviously everybody gets back when they get an appraisal, Jack has been systematically breaking down parts of those reports for me to focus on. And instead of just throwing this huge amount of data at me, Jack wants to be able to take it in segments so that I can learn something perfectly, so I can master that. Or even though you're never going to be perfect, but you can be able to become efficient in that specific skill set. And then he moves on to another part of report. He also did this, Shawn. Um, he did this also when he was starting to introduce me, taking me to properties with him, and for the first couple months, for first probably for the first weeks, I'd say maybe about a month, approximately a month. I was just shadowing him
Hmm.
and just following around and just looking at what he's saying. He's talking things out, his repetitions out, as if as if I'm a fly on the wall. So I was able to gather, see what he was looking at, the comments he was making, how he was engaging with homeowners that happened to be there at the time of the appraisal. And I also got to see problems that he ran into in the field. So it's one of those that you kind of got to get baptized by fire. But I
Hmm.
really appreciate Jack systematically introducing pieces of the process to me. So from being just a shadow starting to be able to call out certain things, how to look at a home every single time I come in the room. There's a process that Jack has me do to be able to analyze all aspects of that room. Now I'm starting to be able to do, the talking part while I'm walking with Jack through the appraisal process. I'm talking him through these inspections now, and he's not listening because, he's looking to see what I'm going to say. So he's always checking everything that I'm doing, but he's testing me in bits and blocks and pieces. And now it's to the point where, Shawn, where I can do appraisals, inspections on my own. Now, granted, he's a supervisor, so he checks over every single aspect and checks over all the crossed T's and dotted I's. But now I'm doing stuff on my own, and I'm having to solve problems out in the field, and it is exhilarating. It is exhilarating to be able to do that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. So, like, give me an example. What's been your favorite part so far? Like, if you had one instance, or just a thing, so to speak,
I
that you
think
really enjoy doing.
So I have to connect this back. And when I was younger, one of the things that I used to do with my mom, it was just me and my mom. Like, this is the thing that we just did, and we just love to go see model homes when we were younger. We used to drive around, and sometimes, like, after school or on the weekend, I go, errand shopping with her, and we would just go to model homes. So it's so funny that I do that now in my career, 30 some years later. So that's actually probably my favorite part, is traveling to different homes, because I don't like to just be sitting still for too long, even though there's a lot of analysis and a lot of detail that goes into the report writing aspect of the appraisal process. But the exciting part for me is that travel, that voyage. And one thing that I ran into that your listeners may not know, that you teased about me, Shawn, in person when I ran into you at a function, is that you called me the
Cowboy.
cowboy. so
Cow-
I so I made this post on LinkedIn, and it got a lot of traction and a lot of positive feedback. I love the show Yellowstone, and that's one of the shows that my mother and I like to watch together. And my wife loves it too now. We caught her up, and now we all watch it together. And so I realized one day, it just hit me. It was after actually the last episode of the last season. I think there's the last season's coming up. And I thought to myself, like, wait a minute. Uh, Appraisers are the real estate cowboys. We have to travel to all across the state, sometimes just for a minute task, no matter what it may be, but we got to go do it. We also have to do things that help the rest of the world function, that other people don't see. Most people don't know about appraisers, let alone Black appraisers, that we exist. So that's another cowboy attribute. We have to deal with situations and sometimes disgruntled people when we are going through the process, which is just like a cowboy going into a saloon or going into a town. So I'm always having to be on the move, and I'm always having to cowboy across the town. And it's a rough job, and it's a thankless job. It's very rare, Shawn, that an appraiser gets a thank you from someone after they settle on the home. But the realtor gets the thanks, they get the Instagram post and everything. And sometimes the lender does. But very rarely does the appraiser get thanked for that. That's why I said that we're the cowboys, because we have a journey that is lonesome, it's thankless, but the other cowboys that are with us in the journey, they understand. So that's why I like, I think I'm gonna praise a cowboy. So
Oh man, that's awesome. That's awesome.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
like, I thank you. I thank you for doing what you say you're gonna do when you get it done. It's been sometimes my experience that doesn't always happen, and
Mm,
so yeah, definitely, you're absolutely right. I felt that way about some other careers that I've been in. We work so hard and we provide these services that are needed, right, by the
yeah,
consumer, and they really should have it. They don't necessarily
yeah.
want it though, right? And it
Mm,
wasn't until I got into this industry, until I started to receive, thanks, like, for providing
yeah,
a service and being compensated for providing that service. It
yeah.
wasn't until I got into this industry. But I know we as lenders, we appreciate you. It's probably more one-sided though. We appreciate you when you do something for us though, most of the time. So, I am here to say that we are grateful for appraisers. We are. And,
Absolutely.
and so, like,
And we're grateful for you too, because you guys help keep us in work too.
Oh
So,
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And
yeah.
you mentioned that the mood has changed, but
Yeah.
I'm thinking it, and it looks like that the mood's going to change again, more favorably here coming up. I'm starting to see more activity, and so just very optimistic about the market. So, like, let's talk about this. So, what's the importance of eliminating appraisal bias? So you can talk about bias too, but like the importance of eliminating it, the appraisal bias, and then also
Mhm.
how do you plan to achieve this in your lifetime as an appraiser?
Well, it's important to eliminate appraiser or bias because the definition of appraiser is the antithesis of bias. That's what it's supposed to be. And we are supposed to be able to give an impartial, objective valuation opinion on a property. And that's what it's supposed to be. If there is bias or if there's prejudice in any form, and this is also parts on the appraisal report that check off that you're not doing this throughout the process. That is something that is absolute no for appraisers. And unfortunately, there may be a few bad appraisers to be able to spoil the whole bunch because most of the appraisers that I've run into, in fact, all the appraisers I've run into have not shown that. But I think it is ignorant to say that bias does not exist in this world. I am the grandson of the first civil rights black lawyer in St. Petersburg, Florida, Pinellas County, Florida. I'm also a brother in law of the census voting director of the Advancement of Asian American Justice, Terry Minnis, in downtown DC. I know what prejudice is. I have experienced it. I have lived with it. So to think that things don't happen um, is naive and it's ignorant. But with that being said, there are things that appraisers do that to be able to eliminate bias through our process. And also, too, Shawn, I would like to say this too, that bias also can be done both ways. An appraiser can be influenced with bias not only if they have you know uh, pre preconceived notions or prejudices in their own lives, but also too when we go to a property, if the homeowner is saying things like, well, I just, I'm looking to retire this next year and, I have cancer. And I've heard that before. An agent has called me to tell me, hey, can you hurry this up? Because the guy has cancer and stuff. But when sometimes a bias can be done to the appraiser on site to try to push towards a number. So bias, even though there is bias, that can be that I just wanted to give a more general overview on how bias can come from several different directions. So I hope that gives a clear aspect. Oh, and to finish answering your question, you asked what do I want to do. Well, Shawn, I feel like that's one of my taglines. You've always said I can be authentic with you, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, please do.
Here, one thing I think I live by phrase with me being in an appraisal field, I'm here to make this stuff cool again. And I'm trying to tell you because I'm so excited that I can be my authentic self in the industry. But at the same time, I'm able to be guided in the proper right way on how to be able to give an impartial and an objective evaluation of one's property. So I am looking to be able to not only to be able to be vocal with my voice, but also too with the types of trainees and the checks and balances that I do on my day-to-day basis to be able to make sure that I'm being the best person that I could be and that I'm be able to give the most efficient and the most impartial and objective production to this industry. So,
Got it, got it. How does tech play into all of this for you? And
so
also because there's some examples, and we won't go down the rabbit hole of bias.
mhm,
There's articles,
mhm,
several articles that have been out about
yeah,
how certain families that live in specific neighborhoods and such, how
mhm,
maybe their house is appraised much differently than their neighbor
mhm,
that's right next to them, that maybe have a different uh, uh, socioeconomic situation or
yeah,
just a race or whatever it might be. And
absolutely.
And so like I know technology is there's been talks about how that's going to play
Eliminate
into the
certain things.
industry, right? And so how do you feel that technology is going to play into the industry, but also based around you making things cool again? I've seen like you on social media educating people, which is super important because if an appraiser walks into a household, now we know who they are, we know what
Yeah.
you do, we know what you're looking for. um let's talk about that real quick, and like, how's technology play into
Mm.
this?
So I know that technology has, particularly too with True Footage, they are in development of trying to be able to come from a 3D scanning point of view, so that that you can have your tablet or device be able to accurately measure certain things and that is supposed to take the biasness out of the person. Um, actually, I am probably going to give an unpopular answer right now. I think that bias can only be eliminated if you have people that look different than everyone else. The appraisal industry, this is a statistical known fact. The appraisal industry is primarily made up of 50-plus-year-old white men. So, although data can contribute to the efficiency of data and of the real estate appraisal process, it can contribute to it. But there's always a wielder of that information. There's always a master of that information. It's the same thing in terms of, let's look at it in terms of sports. Statistically, quarterbacks are being now driven to be able to have high pass percentages, but numbers can be misleading, regardless of how you want to do it, and you can manipulate numbers. So, what's important is to be able to have a diverse amount of people in the industry, and that's why it's important to educate people about these industries. Like I wasn't educated in my past, educating people of different backgrounds and ethnicities, and genders too, because that's what's going to be able to make actual changes if you have actual different looking people to be able to enact those proper tools, such as in technology, to assist with delivering an unbiased product.
Wow, wow. I love that. I think that makes a lot of sense. We talk about that a lot. So, if you understanding uh is important. Understanding,
Absolutely.
right? Right. And
Absolutely.
and so that's definitely half the battle. Man, I kind of want to end on that, but I do have one one or two more questions I want to ask you.
Yeah,
So you got
absolutely.
a couple more questions?
Shawn, I am happy to be here with you. Like
All right.
seriously, I'm
Yeah.
so happy to be here with you. So I'm
So
good.
we're forgetting about the world. So the best times that I in a reason why I really, really enjoy Thursdays. Like Thursdays is one of my favorite days of the week because I
Okay.
get to have these cool conversations with people that are trying to make their industries cool like you, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Every Thursday. And so I'm often very curious and inquisitive about what people do and their why behind it and their purpose, right? And so
yeah,
like for you, how do you stay up to date like with this information? Like I know you're in a the apprentice role and such, but
yeah,
how do you stay up to date with the latest trends and such? Because those of us that are out there that are listening that admire what you do and are contemplating a career change or even contemplating
yeah,
getting into this industry, pivoting into becoming an appraiser, because
yeah,
it's still going to be needed. We need to get valuations of homes in order to lend
yeah.
on them.
Absolutely.
How do you stay up to date?
I
And
think
then
it's a.
also
Uh-huh.
you can it's a two-part. How you stay up to date, but then also talk about the education, the continuing education piece as well.
Got you. So how I stay up to date, um, I guess it's a couple things. One, I make sure that I try to be able to stay in tune. Well, one, I become a member of a chapter, the Appraisal Institute. Certainly become a member of that. That we're able to get your weekly updates. Also, too, so I follow certain people in the industry, such as Blaine Fayan, who also works for True Footage as well too. Dustin Harris, who is a very well-known appraiser guru. I also listen to Ryan Bass. I don't want to get his name wrong. The Appraisal Cast. I also started listening to a little bit of him too, and it just gives such good content And it gives things that I can do on my rides out to properties. Because sometimes, Shawn, I'm riding out to properties and it may take 2 hours, 15 minutes just to get to the property. So I have to be able to have things to be able to educate me along the way. But I think what's most important and how I stay up to date is I started looking at how my wife is smart. My wife focuses on self-healing and self-edification, um, in terms of, all right, how do I say this? I'm not self-improvement, bottom line.
Yeah.
And how I did this was I figured, I was like, all right, well, let me learn from what I learned from my brother, who's a former Marine. Um, I need to have a standard operating procedure that can't be wavered. So I decided to come up with like an hour and a half of like non-negotiable um, aspects of a standard operating procedure that I try not to waver from. I'm not always perfect with it, but I know if I can get these 7 things done throughout the day, then I know that I've done something good. And I may have failed on, I may have, maybe I messed up on a report and my supervisor caught it or whatever it may be. If I can just do these small things, I feel so much better about myself, and it helps me keep me fresh, up to date, and active, and it makes me feel like I'm moving my life forward. Those things are, and I might have to turn them back around because my whiteboard back here actually has them, so I'm not going to put it to there. But it starts off with an hour and a half of non-negotiables. The first one is 15 minutes of faith. Whatever your faith may be, invest into that every single day, because at the end of the day, your job, your spouse, anyone else, none of that is going to matter but your relationship with your father. So whatever that faith may be, make sure you spend 15 minutes a day with that, because that's eternity. Then there's also 15 minutes of real estate intel. So then I will try to sometimes I can get this even from just Instagram, because there's a lot of people like yourself that give such great content and market updates that you stay in contact with it. So it may be that, or it may be something that I'm looking online on a certain website. So 15 minutes of real estate intel. Then I do 15 minutes of appraisal study. So I try to just focus on just appraisal stuff. Now, I'm not kidding. There have been some days where I've had to do reports that have been taking so long that I've marked off I did that 15 minutes of appraisal study. Then there's 15 minutes of, let's look back real quick. Yes, 15 minutes of responding to emails. So everybody has multiple email addresses. Oh gosh, just try to it just helps when the clutter just goes away a little bit. 15 minutes of, this is big. I learned this from my wife. 15 minutes of writing and developing content. In the age that we live in right now, if you want to be able to get your word out there, you have to be able to use tools and technology. But just how I mentioned before, it's not so much about the technology, it's about who is the wielder behind the technology. That's the same thing with you in terms of your creative content writing. And I didn't know how to do it. I just got on Instagram less than 6 months ago, and my wife, and he who findeth a wife findeth a very, very, very good thing. And that's why I got into it. But now it's been working really well for me. Like, people are hitting me up with appraisal questions, concerns, you name it. So, I do not floss nearly as much as I need to. And it is the biggest embarrassing thing when I have to go to the dentist and I always have to like send my line to him, be like, yeah, I know about flossing. But, to be honest with you, I haven't done it as much as I can, but I'm working on it. So what I did is that I made sure that I made it a point to floss every single day.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so yeah. So those things, I think I've named everything. Yeah. Those 15-minute segments, they add up to an hour and a half. The seventh is the floss. That doesn't have any minutes to it. But those things, I'm trying to do that for 2023 every day, every single day. So that's how I stay fresh and up to date.
That's awesome. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. I lied. I said I had one more question. No more
Hey,
questions.
ask away, Shawn. I will hang out with you all day.
I heard about you. You mentioned self-improvement. So speaking of self-improvement, let's talk about,
Yeah.
I promise you this is the last question in regards to
No,
this.
what's up?
Your biggest challenges or your biggest challenge and how have you overcome?
Wow. You know what? I'm so glad you said that. My biggest challenge is doubt.
Mhm.
I have been, I've been, I've been a competitive person all my life, and I've been put in high stress situations, sometimes voluntarily, sometimes not voluntarily. And the need and the importance to perform is so critical. And I feel that that has taken a toll on me, to the fact that I sometimes put so much pressure on myself to get things right like the first time. And Jack has had to actually give me talks about this, that I want to be able to get it right, because I'm used to sometimes things happening that can be catastrophic if you don't focus on the details too. So, but that in a way, I feel like has sometimes put a little doubt in me. And sometimes when it's a new challenge, I sometimes think about, okay, where are the problems? When maybe I should shift my focus in saying, how can this work? So I just want to be vulnerable with you. And I want to be honest with you, as two men in the industry. You know, sometimes doubt can be that way, and sometimes that even comes into play. Sometimes, when you grow up, and just to be honest, as a appraiser, but a black appraiser, when you're in the industry, when you're one of the few that only look like yourself, sometimes that can be intimidating. And sometimes the things that sometimes can be sometimes a little bit of a struggle, even at ages of 12 and 13, sometimes they can still be at 35, 40 years old, you know? So that
46.
hey, so it's one of those things that I am always working on. And this the standard operating procedure, that's really helping me. That's helping me so much. So that was a great question. And I think those are really the questions that, like you said, that's how you really get to know people and how they truly feel. So I really appreciate you asking that question, Shawn.
Yeah, no, you nailed it, and I think you also got a chance to reflect on yourself, and you're like, in the back of your mind, you're like, aha, standard operating procedures. Like you put those things in place. The biggest thing that I hear that you don't do, and maybe you do, but like judging yourself while you do it. That's one thing
Mm,
that I found is that sometimes we set these goals and such, right? And there's
yes.
no and a purpose is a big word that I believe in, but there's nothing tying you to what you say you're gonna do. There's nothing tying you to that goal, right? But if you have a reason for why you're trying to accomplish this thing, right? It's much harder to not do it. So maybe if I miss
Yes.
a day, maybe if I miss a day, right? I'm just like, oh man, I failed,
Yeah.
and then I don't really want to do it tomorrow because I'm judging myself, or I don't do it tomorrow because I'm like I haven't succeeded. I let myself down. I
Yeah.
let everybody else down because I told them, right? But many times we forget that you just gotta do it again the next day and keep doing it until it becomes what we call a habit. And
A
so
habit.
yeah, and so I think you nailed it, and I applaud you for that. And so you and Amy, I already always tell you that authenticity. Someone told me is the only currency. So we
Wow,
just have
that's
to,
gold. That's
yeah,
gold right there. That's so
yeah.
gold right there.
So Devin, like, how can we help you? One, and then number
Yeah.
two, how do we connect with you or follow you on
Yeah.
social media or whatnot? Like, so how can we help you? What do you
Yeah.
need? And how do we connect with you?
I need people to contact me for their appraisal needs, whether if it's an appraisal or if it's just questions, or it's questions about the industry. I've had actually quite a few people that have heard me on some of the past shows that I've been on, and they have said, "Hey, my son, my daughter is considering this. How did you find out about it?" So I appreciate that, because someone had to talk to me and someone had to tell me about it. um, you can follow me, and so that's what you can do for me. You can contact me, but how you contact me, let's go through Instagram. You can contact me at the underscore husband appraiser. Again, that's the underscore husband appraiser. And yes, also, also too, I love my wife, as you guys can say. So, you can follow my wife at the mortgage girl at the_mortgage girl boss too. Thank you, Shawn, for putting up there. I'm telling you, she's way smarter than me. So
we're gonna put her up. Like, yeah, now Amy's awesome. We'll get yours up too in a second as well.
thank
Up
you,
there.
Shawn. I
No,
appreciate
that
it.
yeah, no, this has been great. And so can't let
Can I add one more thing? Can I add one more thing to the question
of
you said
course.
before?
Yeah, of course.
And I learned this from my best friend Malik, who told me this when when I was at the lowest emotionally in my life, which was about 2.5 years ago. He said, "Be kind to yourself.
Oh yeah.
Be kind to yourself, because the world and people, they will beat you down." And I don't know if I have any Rocky fans in here, but I grew up on Rocky, all Rocky. And Mick said that too, actually. He was like, it's not about, excuse me, Rocky said that to his son. He said, it's not about how much of a punch you can take. It's about, can you take the punch, get up, and keep moving forward? That's how winning is done. And if you aren't kind to yourself in your career, in your doubts, you are only going to be the best person to take care of you. No one else can take care of you better than yourself. So that was something that was huge. And I would say that to everyone. So thank you for letting me put that in there. That was huge.
So listen, you get one person, one
Okay.
question. Who would it be
Okay.
and what would you ask? You get one person, one question. Who would it be and what would you ask?
Wow.
Hey, brother, I sent you the content brief.
I love this. I love this. But yeah, but I'm being honest, I didn't see that one. This is good. Okay.
Ah,
So
so we need to make that one jump off the page.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's yeah. Okay, one question, one person, one question.
Take your time.
Oh my gosh, this is so good. I have two people in mind, but I'm narrowed it down to one. So
You only get one.
okay, I only get one. All right, I got it. I got it. If
That
I
doesn't mean
had
that's your favorite person, but you get one person
your
and one
favorite,
question.
just one person and one question. Um, it would probably be Bruce Lee.
Okay. I thought you were gonna
And
say Rocky.
oh, it can be fictitious. If it's fictitious, then I got some people I can ask.
It could be any. We had
Anything.
the crazy thing is once we had a young lady. She mentioned this was during the pandemic, in the height of the pandemic. She said she would like to ask her dog why he keeps barking at all the kind people that are bringing deliveries to their doorstep. um
Okay.
so yeah, now you get one person, one question. You can ask
Okay.
Bruce Lee. That sounds interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would ask Bruce Lee, and probably the question would be, will you train me? But
I
if I
love
had
it.
to just yeah, but if I had to ask him just a question, if it couldn't be that one, I would ask him to go deeper in what he meant. I think I know what he meant, but I want him to go even deeper about be like water. I would love to ask him and just sit down with him about that, because I feel that Bruce Lee has been such a implement of self-confidence in the lives of so many people taking martial arts. What people don't realize is we would not have any martial arts if it wasn't for Bruce Lee. Mixed martial arts, what you hear, the coin term in the UFC today, Bruce Lee was the original mixed martial artist when
Mm.
developing Jeet Kune Do. So I would certainly ask him that, and I guess I would say that is because being a young black kid, we identified with martial arts in the 80s and 90s, also through music like the Wu-Tang Clan, just in hip hop, just in general. It was very ingratiated in our culture, and it was ingratiated in mine. So I would certainly ask him that, would go deeper on Be Like Water. But I would really want him to train me.
Will you train me? And if you don't have time,
Yeah, if you don't have
tell
time.
me. Just tell me what you meant when you said
Yeah.
"be like water." I love it.
Absolutely.
I love it. That
Absolutely.
that's
Absolutely.
great. So, ladies and gentlemen, like I always say, it would be such a shame for me to know people like Devin and have these relationships and resources in the network and not share them with you. So, this has been amazing today, Devin. I appreciate you pouring into our community. And
Thank
then,
you, Shawn.
lastly, everyone, if there's anything that I can do to help you in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out. Still remain as safe and as healthy as you possibly can. And
All
we'll be
right.
back here next week with another amazing guest. Devin, I ask you to hang on with me for about another minute or so, but
Yeah.
we're gonna end the show. But thank you so much. This was
Thank you for
great,
having
and
me.
I want to say I'm proud of you. And
Thank you, Shawn. That means a
no matter
lot.
where this apprentice thing takes you, you're gonna crush it. So like, don't worry about
Thank you
it.
so much, Shawn. Thank you so much, and all the prayers needed. Thank you for having me so much, and thank you, Fortis, for having me.